So I just found out about this project, Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, which is constantly being updated. You can see it had an update yesterday. And if you look at the update history, it seems like every month it's getting updates, or every couple months. I completed a few pretty easy challenges already. These first two have no time limit on them. And this next one does have a time limit, but it wasn't too difficult because a lot of the park was already built for me. And there's some infrastructure built with this challenge as well, but I was thinking an interesting challenge on top of the challenge would be to demolish everything that we start with. So here's a park, and it seems like a lot of it's pretty symmetrical. Like we got a monorail station down here and a monorail station on the other side as well. Then we got 4 chairlifts going over the valley in the middle. Then up here we got a pterodactyl terror roller coaster, which has pretty high stats. Very high nausea though, which I don't like that part of it. It's gonna make people be puking everywhere. So we start off by building an information kiosk, a food and drink stand, a souvenir shop of some sort that people can buy stuff at, and a restroom. Plus both sides have 3 pre-built rides that are kind of lame, but it's just something that people can start queuing for and spend their money on. After demolishing everything, our money situation is doing really well. We did have a 5K loan that we can pay off immediately, and we'll do vouchers for free food or drink, which I think half the people are not gonna be able to redeem because they won't be able to get to the other side of the park. We'll do those for burgers. I don't think it really matters what you're doing the vouchers for. And we can also do vouchers for free rides on Motion Simulator 1 and do that for 12 weeks. And for the fun part though, we're gonna build a roller coaster, and we're gonna start by building the cheapest one. You can see the price in the bottom right. The cheapest one here is the junior roller coaster, which is not a bad coaster to start with. Because this map is so cool with all the dinosaurs in the middle of the valley, we're gonna do a rule that all coasters have to go over the fence at some point so they can look over into the valley and get that really amazing view. The only problem with the junior roller coaster is you can't build it that high because it doesn't support even going like that high, for example, because it's such a crappy roller coaster. So the idea is the station platform is going to be built into the mountain, and it's going to plop out like so to this point where we actually cannot go any further because we can't change the elevation of any of this land. It's not owned by us. With this roller coaster, we're going to have to build it closer to the ground, and we'll just build it like so. And at the very start, people are going to be able to look out into the valley, and they're actually going to be in the valley. And then we're now going to try to connect it back to the main platform, which somehow, some way, I was able to do this without spending 30 minutes on it, which is amazing. That being said, the challenge is not over. This thing's built down 60 feet and ground level is 120 feet. So we got to build a path going down to 60 feet. Okay, I think I actually did it. Pretty sure this path goes all the way down, and it's really hard to really understand what the heck is going on with the path. The main thing is we now have a path underground, and we connect that to other roller coasters, and this one does work. The stats on it are actually pretty good. Medium, high, medium. We'll definitely take that. And we'll open this baby up and increase the cost of this up to probably about $5, I would say. Now to do a very similar concept on the other side, we're gonna build a dinghy slide. And this is about as high as you can build it, I think. So it's a pretty good starting spot. We'll have it start dipping down into the terrain. And do keep in mind, some of this stuff you cannot build over. It's like sacred territory or something. So it's gonna be easier said than done. I think it would be really cool if we drop down to this point and people could see a lot of the scenery up close and personal. And we pull it back around in the tube so people won't be flying out, even though we're only at 20 feet. I think people could survive a 20-foot drop. Maybe that would be part of the excitement actually. Can you survive the 20-foot drop and you win a prize? Well, the problem is after you survive the drop, you have to run from the dinosaurs, which may be easier said than done because your feet are probably broken. We pull it back down, and then as we're approaching the mountain, you can see out and view the dinosaurs, which is very awesome. Pull this thing back up and then try to connect it, which is again going to be very difficult, I think. Okay, don't ask me how I connected it, but I did manage to connect it. And now we're going to test the thing out and we're going to see if it actually works. And right now it's working fine. Then we get up here and it's going to be really impossible to see what's going on, but I had to make it kind of go up, and then it does some turns to come back. I just hope that the dinghies make it back to the main entrance and it doesn't crash, which right now it's just testing, so even if it crashes, it's not that big of a deal. But I do think the dinghy made it back is the main thing, and if the stats on it are too crazy, and never mind, the stats actually blow. Before we accept mediocrity here, let's try to do an alteration, this outside portion, which is just do a lot steeper of a drop here. We'll do one more test run on this thing, and I think we're just going to go with this design as long as the dinghies don't fly off the end, which we're fine, I think. Yeah, I think it made it. And wow, the stats on this are so much better for that slight adjustment. High excitement, high intensity, and medium nausea. That is amazing. We're now getting to work on building a log flume ride, which is going to be much simpler. It's not going to go underground. And before I forget, we actually need to connect the dinghy slide ride to our main path, which is going to take probably like a whole in-game month. This is so brutal. I think the play here might actually be just finish this log flume ride because it's really simple. I kind of like the idea of making this thing splash people underneath. We need to make it go back to our main path. We can actually have it go over to the path, which is pretty cool. And we can try to connect it back to the main thing. We pretty much got it. And it shouldn't actually be that bad too. Like I feel like the design is okay on this. I don't even know if I care about testing it. I think we'll just open it up because you can see how crowded people are. I'm sure they're complaining about crowding now. The log flume ride stats are actually pretty good. Medium, low is not bad for something that I just kind of whipped together. So it took me either a month or 2 months to figure out a way to connect a path to go underground, and you guys can see what we're working with here. The path goes underground and it meets the entrance and the exit. Like down here we can kind of see the queue going to the path, and people are walking in a very precarious position, and there definitely should be some better protection keeping people safe on the path, but I don't think they can fall off the path or anything. One coaster that I should have built earlier that I kind of forgot about was the inverted impulse coaster, which is very easy to design, and you basically just build it like this, and you can change the speed of it and make it go quicker, but you don't want your cars to run off the edge of the track. That's kind of cutting it a little bit close. It's high, medium for no design basically at all. I built another one on the other side. The stats are pretty much the same, high, medium. I will say the length of this thing is very short, so I'm not really sure why people are paying $5 to get in, but they are paying it. Since we now have quite a few coasters, we're going to do advertising campaigns for free rides and burgers, which we were doing, but then advertising campaign for the park, which is really expensive, and advertising campaign for the Dinghy Slide 1, which I feel like is our best ride. That stuff all is going to cost quite a bit, but we should make our cash back because guests are just going to be pouring in now. This side is extremely crowded and we need to get people off the pass and into queues, so we're going to try to kind of speed run here and just build as many coasters as we can as quickly as we can. I did a very basic design where we drop down into this splash zone that's going to be splashing people below queuing up for the motion simulator ride. It is very basic, but it does go over the edge so people can see the park, and we're getting some splashing on the people below, which I really like. We also got an on-ride photo taker thing that people can pay to get their photo taken, and the stats are actually not that bad. Medium. I don't really know why the nausea is so high, and I wonder if at the end, if we drop it down one more time, if that could buff up the excitement a little bit into another splash zone. That could be kind of cool. The stats are in. We got medium, which that was what it was before, but I do think the stats went up a little bit. We'll charge a modest $4.50 for a ticket. We're now going to connect both the sides by building a massive chairlift, and yeah, this thing is just really simple. You just connect it from one side to the other, and it's not that expensive to build. $40 for each thing is not bad. With some rides, you don't have the option to change how many cars are in the ride, but with the chairlift you do. So I cranked this thing to the max amount of chairs that we could fit in there. We're not even going to test this thing. We're just going to let it run because I don't think it's actually possible for a chairlift to crash. So yeah, it's just going over the middle and it's going to reach the other side basically. So we've been putting $200 a month into researching transport rides and roller coasters, and we researched this Virginia reel, which is really cheap. It's like $1,000, but I couldn't figure out how to make the excitement and intensity higher than the nausea. So we're just going to kind of settle with the crappy roller coaster when it comes to this. We're not going to settle though when it comes to the wooden roller coaster, which is 3 times as expensive, but we can build it way higher and we can make a way cooler design. And the idea with this one is we're just going to have it do a steep drop down into a vertical loop, which might be too intense. I'm not really sure the mechanics of this. I kind of want to just bring it back and see what the stats are on that. Well, we can always remove the loop later, so I guess we'll just try to bring it back around, and then I'll do a little bit of tunneling into the mountain with it. I'll try to figure out some way to bring it back around. Well, high, very high, and medium, we will take that 100%. We'll charge like $10 for this thing. I bet people will actually ride it for $10. Maybe even like 13 actually. Try 13. Let's see if anyone complains about that. I found this option for cutaway view, which allows you to cut anything that's above a certain height, like 95 feet for example, and that allows us to see exactly what's going on with the roller coaster. You can see at the very end we have some chains pulling it back up, then we just do a little dip and then we get back to the station. But yeah, this setting is going to make it a lot easier to build underground, because if I disable that, you can see like there's absolutely no way you can tell what's going on. After running this coaster for not even that long, we can see the stats are insane. We've already got 1,300 from it and we're getting crazy profit. And it's getting quite a few customers per hour. 1,100 is really decent actually for how much we're charging for it. If we look at like Junior Roller Coaster 1, which does have pretty good stats, it's getting 1/3 of that per hour, which is still pretty good. Like Junior Roller Coaster 1 was very cheap. We've got the wooden roller coaster on this side of the park. Over on this side, we've been expanding a bit. We built these go-karts, which give you pretty free stats, medium, low for a pretty minimal design layout. Going over the cliff here is a little bit dangerous, I will say. And we just got an award, by the the way, for being the park with the best roller coasters, which is really cool because we're about to build another massive one. So we have plenty of money. We're up to 27K, and we need to start bumping our guest numbers up because we're about halfway where we need to be, and we're on year 2. We need to get 2,700 guests in here, and in order to get more guests, we need bigger and better roller coasters. We researched a few really expensive ones. We got this multi-dimensional coaster, which I have no idea how exactly we designed this thing, and it's got this weird seat rotation thing that I have no idea how we'd actually go about using, so I think we're gonna skip on that one for now. I think I've tried to build this air-powered vertical coaster as well before, and it kind of failed, so we're gonna go with this flying roller coaster. I do really like the idea of building it into the mountain. We can see this path is at 70 feet, so if we hit shift, we can raise this thing up to 60 is okay, and move it back into the mountain, and then we're probably gonna intercept the water slide at some point. No, we're not. That's pretty good. We'll build a mountain part of the coaster first, just so we know exactly where we stand in terms of where we need to connect it. And we'll shoot it out at about 20 feet is where the feeding zone is. We could give some other dinosaurs some nice feed. Shoot out at the 10 foot. Oh, that's too low. Land not owned by the park. So shoot out about 15 feet. And there we go. We can have the dinosaurs maybe munch on some of our guests, which I feel like would be an amazing experience. But yeah, so we know where we need to connect it now, and now we can start actually designing the coaster. So this coaster has quite a few specialized things it can do. We're going to start with this kind of loop thing going down, which I think might be pretty intense. We're just bring it back up a little bit to kind of chill on the intensity. Do like a helix up type of deal. That actually looks pretty nice. And then we get some momentum going into, I guess, an inline twist. At this point, I kind of just want to bring it back home and then see, you know, what the stats are. So I finished it and we're doing a test run, and I think it might be too intense going around this first turn here. And like, we're going way too fast as we're heading to the inline twist. And yeah, as you can see, the stats are actually not bad, I would say. High, very high, but then very high nausea. It's a small adjustment. I added some brakes, which I'm not sure what speed to set them at. Okay, that's pretty slow, I would say, although we do have something speeding the coaster up, a booster towards the end here. It's actually not going to make it. Okay, wait, pause, close the coaster, and then right click it to enable build mode, and it won't crash. Down here at the booster, we can increase the speed of that up to 27, and then increase the speed of the brakes as well up to 31. I didn't feel like we need to slow it down that much. Like, that might be okay. The booster might be enough to make it get around this, although it's going pretty slow now. I feel like we're going to definitely take a hit on a lot of stats. And actually, it's not that bad. Excitement's high, intensity high, nausea high. I have one final idea, which is boost the speed of the boosters up to 40, boost the speed of the brakes up to 45 so they're not as effective, and then towards the end here, I feel like this is where people are getting nausea. We'll add some brakes down here as well. The brakes are going to slow it down to 27 as it's going around this curve. Yeah, this is looking a lot better, and the stats are in high, high, high. We'll just open this thing, and we'll set the price right at 15. We'll see how that does. I spent, I want to say, like 3 in-game months designing that coaster, doing all the adjustments, which was way too long, and the stats on that were not worth the time investment. Like, if we look at this air-powered vertical coaster, which I did design, but I kind of copied a pre-built design, its stats are very high, very high, high, and this thing took me, I want to say, like 3 in-game days to build versus, you know, 4 months for the other one, and not even 3 days. It probably took me like 1 in-game day. It just was so simple to slap down. We built 2 of these, one on the other side of the park, and on this side we did some adjustments as well. Like, we researched the car ride. This thing's actually pretty nice. You get medium, low, low for not much price, and I do think the stats are boosted when it's going around scenery, which I did plop down some scenery, some volcanoes over here, and if rides are near each other, I believe they get some type of excitement boost. And the car ride's really easy because it can't crash and it can turn really tight turns, so you can kind of maneuver it through your other coasters. I also built this steeplechase, which, like the car ride, is going over the edge. And that was, you know, the main stipulation with this run was everything had to go over the fence. And the steeplechase is the blue thing that is in fact going over the fence. And with this one, you get really good bang for your buck. High, high, medium for a really basic coaster. And then towards the end, it gets splash, which I thought that was a really nice addition. And then meanwhile, on this other side, I built 2 more chairlifts on top of the chairlift that we already had, plus a monorail station that goes through the entire park. Problem with this thing is that you can't build it that high, so I had to tunnel it down, and then it just crosses over this river. The stats on this aren't bad, medium, low, low. The main thing is it gets people from one side of the park to the other, like the chairlift. And then we also have a couple pretty massive coasters over here, which I wanted to, you know, explain the design and everything, but we just had to go basically to win the scenario. And I think maybe we'll just go through the process of building those in a future video. As for this one, since I did have to rush to complete the scenario, we're just going to skip a lot of year 4. And if you would like to see another video on this game, possibly the next scenario, then drop a like.